This week we're going to discuss how to read and think critically. I'm sure you guys have all heard these terms before, so we're going to briefly go through what each of them means. So we're going to first discuss critical reading. As you can see in the PowerPoint, you're going to see some key words using says, does, and means with a reference to a text you're reading or may have read. An example of critical reading would be, what does the author mean when he or she says a particular thing? As you can see in this question, you see the word says. Why does a particular character do whatever he or she is doing? Going back to the keyword, you also see does and doing. So think to yourself, are you a critical reader when you're reading any type of text? Do you read to memorize facts, or do you read to acquire a deeper appreciation or understanding of a certain event or phenomenon? You may be a critical reader in one aspect, and you may not be in another, depending on the type of text that you are reading at the time. In order to become a critical reader, you must remember texts are mere portrayals of authors' perspectives. Critical readers must learn how to analyze the hidden data in the text in order to gauge the author's purpose. So what message is being delivered using the text? And what should we be taking away? These are some of the questions that you need to be thinking to yourselves while you're critically reading. Critical readers must be able to recognize bias and always look for signal words or phrases within the text that highlight the tone or mood of the piece. So we need to think in the back of our minds, all are part of making inferences using text evidence. What is critical thinking? And how is it different from critical reading? Some hints that you might want to think about when we're discussing critical reading, we're thinking of discovering the information via our reading. Critical thinking is analyzing and evaluating the information. Think about interpreting the information that you read and reflection on validity of what you read. Deciding if the information is true or not, and what are we going to do with the information that we learned. What comes first? Is it critical reading or is it critical thinking? Does reading have to take place before thinking can be done? Think of the proverbial chicken and the egg. It is a continuous cycle, so there's not one starting point and stopping point. We need to understand a text before we can evaluate it. And when we're thinking about critical reading and critical thinking, we need to keep an open mind. We need to understand that the author is coming from different perspectives, possibly than our own. So we need to think outside of the box and have that open mind to know that not everyone is going to say or think the way we are. Think rationally, look at what the evidence is telling you. Does it make sense? Is it valid? Recognize prejudices, the author's and your own. And use your prior knowledge to understand and evaluate the information you receive. So to wrap up, we want to make sure that we understand that critical reading is to recognize what a text says and how it relates to the subject. Remember, says is the same as restating, does is describes, and means is interprets.